This is the Web of Time, where we summarize, analyze, and review the Doctor Who stories put out by Big Finish Productions. This time we'll be looking at the second of their monthly series, Phantasmagoria. Taking this tour through the cosmos with you is me, Roy, I'm the host.
Me, Sam, I'm not the host.
And me, Dylan, I'm also not the host.
There can only be one.
There can only be one! And with Phantasmagoria, the synopsis put out by Big Finish is this. The TARDIS takes the Doctor and Turlough to the London of 1702, where a mysterious highwayman roams the streets, a local occultist has made contact with the dead, and gentlemen of fashion are disappearing, only to find themselves in a chamber whose walls weep blood. The time travelers become enmeshed in the hideous plan of Sir Nicholas Valentine, a gambler at the mysterious Diabola Club, which always seems to have a winning hand. What you need to know. I'm going to assume you have at least a basic understanding on Doctor Who. So what you need to understand before listening to this is that this is about the Fifth Doctor. Who's the Fifth Doctor? He's the one that wears the celery on his lapel. He's generally known as being probably the kindest, most moral Doctor. He's also in some ways very detached. He doesn't like interfering in things when he can help it. Yeah, he's a very plain vanilla Doctor. And with him on that adventure is Turlough. Now, Turlough is an alien noble who was exiled to Earth after a revolution on his planet, posing as an English schoolboy when the Doctor met him.
That I did not know.
He got drafted by one of his villains with the promise of freedom if he killed the Doctor, but Turlough just wasn't evil enough to go through. Since then, the Doctor and Turlough have had their differences, but eventually Turlough grew to consider the Doctor his closest friend. So that's what you need to know.
Oh, good on him.
And, yes, he didn't kill the Doctor. For recommendations, 5 different recommendation options we have on this show are Must Buy, where we think it is so good that you absolutely, if you're at all a fan of Doctor Who, you just need to buy it right now. It's worth your money. There's Worth Your Time, where, you know what, we're going to recommend this. This is good. It's a solid listen. You should definitely listen to it. There's Why Not, where it's, if you're going through the big finishes, you should listen to it. It's worth it to listen. Why not? Skippable, where you're not missing anything. I mean, you can listen to it, you can not listen to it. It doesn't really matter.
If a friend of yours hands it to you on a hard drive, might as well kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you set sail.
And Avoid, where watching it would probably actually depreciate your value.
You mean listening to it?
Yes, listening to it. Thank you. Okay, let's go around the table, starting with Dylan. Recommendation?
I would go with a Why Not. It's definitely one of those ones where, of the few that I've listened to, and I've only listened to 3 so far, 4, this one was probably not up to par to the others. But I would definitely, if I were trying to be a completionist about it, I would definitely go through it.
Okay. Sam?
I think when I was listening to it, I was thinking it might be a Why Not. It definitely didn't strike me as a recommended one, really, but then I listened to this one a while ago because the recording got delayed, and it was like 2 weeks ago or something, and I realized coming up to this that I barely remembered it. Like, it just didn't actually impact me at all.
Yeah, that's why I listened to it a second time, because it's like, oh, what happened?
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to say probably a skip it. It's not bad, but I don't know, I just didn't get anything out of it, I guess.
I gotta agree with you, Sam. I gotta go with skippable. I don't think, there's nothing necessarily bad in this one, but it's very forgettable. It's very plain. It's I don't feel if you listen to it, it's like you're really going to get that much out of it.
Oh, the audio balancing is just all over the place.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right, so now on to our analysis. Beware spoilers. So if you haven't listened to it and you'd like to, do not finish the rest of this.
That basically gives us about 5 minutes of stuff to listen to.
All right, Dylan, what did you think about this? Just spoilery, like whatever you want to talk about. Like, what did you think?
Well, back to the audio thing. It was the main sticking point for me was definitely the audio, in that it was all over the place. The effects heavy portions were like extremely loud to the point where I flinched. And then like the dialogue stuff kind of was like very low, so it was kind of hard to listen to at times. And that really didn't help things. But I felt that the story itself was kind of formulaic. You could pick out who it was, who the big bad was, very easily.
They basically gift wrapped him to you.
Yeah, and you could tell like stuff was going down. They did have like a little twist that went like.
I didn't see that. There was one little twist that I did not see coming.
We can't talk about spoilers. You can be specific.
All right, I did not see that. So I can't actually remember the character's name because she was that forgettable. But the maid character turned out to be the highwayman all along. I was like,
Anna.
I didn't see that coming. But then afterwards, I was like, yeah, but did it really add anything? And I mean, I think a lot of the story elements in this, for me, it's one of those things where I think you could take an axe to this episode and remove so much, and I don't think you'd ever notice.
Yeah.
I don't think there's just so much that's so superfluous, and I usually don't like that kind of argument because I feel like you're talking about things that are really, be like, oh, you could have cut Ember Island players from Avatar and you would have lost anything, but you would have. You would have lost some really great comedy. You would have lost some really good character moments.
I love that episode.
There's so much great. Yes, me too. But for me, when I say this is superfluous, I mean not just that there's no real, big story thing for Doctor Who, but there's not a lot of comedy in this episode. There's not a lot of awesome, cool stuff in this episode. There's not a lot of great character moments. There's not a lot of sad. There's just, I don't know. It's like if I had to sum it up, I'd just be like, Cricket, I guess, saved the day. I don't know.
I didn't even know it was Cricket that they were playing.
That they were talking about?
Yeah, they were just talking about a card game. It's like, oh, okay, that's how it works. And I guess I probably could have picked that out if I knew the game, but...
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, no. Early on, they were talking... There are two games. There's Cricket, which at the very beginning, at the very end. Which is it's not a card game. Cricket's a...
yeah.
It's like a baseball-esque game.
Yeah.
Except...
And then they're playing some kind of card game with Valentine that he steals your soul with. And I don't know. It just... It felt like the most boring plot. It was just like, oh, wow, card player steals people's souls. Oh, Doctor Who twist. Turns out it's not magic, it's all aliens. I could never have guessed that.
Well, you see, that's a given.
It is, but it treats it like the Doctor's like, I'm a normally reasonable person, but I'm starting to think this might be something more.
I just felt that he was surprised that shit was going on.
Yeah, that was actually exactly how it came across to me, too. That at first he was skeptical that anything was happening, and then he became convinced that something was happening, but never did I get the impression that the Doctor actually thought there was magic.
I felt like there was a moment where he's had a comment where he's just like, normally I'm a man of science, but I'm not sure about this. And it's like, this is, Doctor, you've seen this all the time. This is nothing.
Yeah.
Also, you're talking about audio bouncing. Me and Casey didn't notice that at all. Me and my wife... we're listening to it, but we were listening to it just on a laptop on the ground. And so, not listening super close, didn't have headphones on. We didn't notice the audio balancing. What I noticed mainly with this that was really weird, I feel like the acting was directed really weird in this one. At points, some performances were just so hammy. Just the hammiest of ham. Over the top to the point where it kind of made me be like, I don't even know what this is anymore. A lot of the original characters for this story, they were given such outrageous accents, and they were acting so over the top, where I couldn't even be, invested in the performance at all. But then other performances, including Peter Davidson as the Fifth Doctor and Turlough, I felt they were so underwhelming. They would deliver lines in such a deadpan, flat, wooden way. I was just like, what's going on with the acting in this one? And I also felt like the...
Valentine was hilarious, though.
Valentine was a little funny. I'll give you that. I felt like there was a lot of... in a good Big Finish audio, you can kind of picture what's happening. You're given enough stuff that you can let your imagination run wild. And this, so much of it, I was like, I don't understand what this means. I need more description than this.
That definitely happened to me, too. And in a way, because mostly when it happened for me was when the... quote-unquote ghosts were coming, and they had the really loud, weird sounds. And, on one hand, the sound...
That's the shit that blew out of my ears.
Well, yeah, see, and that's true. That got really loud, because the same thing happened to me. I listened to it in the car while I was on the job, and when that happened, it got really loud, and the voices did not get loud enough to match it, for that matter, so I had no idea what anyone was saying half the time during those scenes. But like it, in terms of the description, it was like on one hand, not knowing what it looked like and just hearing this creepy thing was actually kind of a neat effect for me, but after one or two times, and I still didn't really know what was going on. It was just kind of annoying that this thing would keep happening, and I had no idea what was actually going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It would take me a while. I was like, oh, man, it's just a one-off occurrence. And then I was starting to go, no, this story really isn't taking the time to describe what's happening. Also, fun fact for listeners out there, the script for this was written by Mark Gatiss, who plays a banker in Game of Thrones. He's Mycroft Holmes in Sherlock. He's written a lot of Doctor Who stuff before. And he wrote one of the first Series 1 episodes of the revived show, Unquiet Dead, borrowed a lot of elements from this. He repurposed the script for this episode basically into that one.
Yeah, I was thinking of that, actually, as I listened to it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that happens a lot in Big Finish. And this is one of those cases where, in some cases, an episode that happens, and the episode that comes out of it is actually a lot better than the audio story. Other times the audio story is much better than what it gets turned into. This time I think they're kind of equal, because Unquiet Dead is one of those episodes I've seen multiple times. I don't remember a single thing other than Charles Dickens is in it.
Yeah.
And there's ghosts, and there are aliens. Like, I don't remember anything else. Like, it's like such a boring episode.
I don't remember the details, but I do remember being interested in it and liking that Charles Dickens was in it. But
I think I liked that the Ninth Doctor was just so gung-ho about meeting Charles Dickens.
I also just really love that Doctor, personally.
Oh, yeah. Ninth Doctor makes everything better.
Eccleston is fun.
Yeah,
he's
I
not
really
going to beat out Tennant, though. He'll never beat out Tennant.
He might still be my favorite. I don't know. I really loved him.
He is it's either Ninth Doctor, 12th Doctor, or 4th Doctor, or 6th Doctor for me. 8th Doctor's up there. I don't know. I like a lot of them.
Oh, now we know who the big nerd is.
Yeah, one of the particular people who were doing a podcast about Doctor Who. Only one of them is the big nerd.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
He wrote us into this. He likes My Little Pony. I like Sherlock.
Oh, man. Differences.
I'm trying to remember. I had another point, and I completely... Sam, you talk. I'm going to try to think.
Okay, I'll talk. So, Doctor Who and stuff. No, yeah, this one, I don't know. Like, there were some things I liked about it, but looking back on it, the only thing I, remember liking is and I also forgot her name, but the character who was a maid and then turned out to be
Anna.
Anna. Especially once that, the twist itself was, I didn't see it coming, but it wasn't all that interesting, but her role in the story after that was more interesting, and I enjoyed her character after that point. But, I mean, yeah, really, I don't know, it was just kind of underwhelming. Like, I listened to it, I wasn't bored or anything, but I didn't really gain anything from it, I guess. I don't think anything would be lost by not listening to it.
You did just remind me, I guess one positive I can give this episode is it kind of touches on feminism, or at least on gender roles in older societies. And that was interesting. It was very light. It was just like the barest grazing of the issue, but it was at least kind of interesting.
Like, it's there. I feel like the woman dresses up as a man to do man things is common enough that it just didn't stand out to me. But
she didn't just dress up like a man. Like, there was, did you hear, the sound of, the...
Well, okay, yeah,
weird,
sorry, that's true.
Transmogrification thing.
Who disguises herself as a man.
She mega evolved into a...
Yeah, so, that is cool. I guess I don't know, I've seen that often enough that it didn't even stand out to me. And normally that kind of stuff pops out to me.
Well, it wasn't ham-fisted about it, and that's what I liked about it. It felt natural in the thing. So
yeah, I can definitely give the story that. I swear I had a point, and I still lost it. I don't know where the hell that went.
Yeah, something about feminism, something about.
It was before that. It was about
ethics.
Oh, there it is. I think I made this clear last episode, but Peter Davidson is not exactly my favorite Doctor. He's probably around there with 3 as one of my less interesting Doctors for me, personally. I know that I'm going to get tons of hate mail about that I don't like 5 and 3. It's not that I don't like them. They're just not as interesting for me. But Turlough is actually one of my favorite classic companions. I think he's a really interesting character. I wish we had more cool stuff like that in modern TARDIS teams, like alien people, who are alien nobles who have to hide out on Earth or something. Like, that's just cool. it's a different point of view, and that kind of companion adds a lot.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that in the new series really is Jack, is the closest we've come. And he was only a companion for 3 episodes.
See, though, I didn't... I mean, that's cool in general, but in this specifically, I didn't know anything about this companion, and
You didn't know any of that. And
I didn't know any of it, and yeah, exactly, I couldn't tell. I think that I caught, like, a couple things that implied he wasn't from Earth, or something like that, but that was the extent of it. The character's alienness was completely wasted.
And his amorality. They did show off a little bit of his amorality in the beginning, which I liked, where he's like, hearing Scream for help, he's like, isn't someone going to do something about that? He's like, no? Do I gotta... I gotta go do it. God.
I gotta go save the day. Sigh.
Yep. I love Turlough's a fun companion. I like that kind of character. Especially because he was paired with Davidson, who was this very straight-laced doctor who wasn't going to mess around with immorality at all. They were a good pair. I can't really think. There's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
with this
that's
one.
kind of what
It
I was
basically covers everything.
realizing. I normally have more to talk about stories than this. Like, even
not very interesting
ones.
stories.
Yeah, but I don't... Admittedly, it might have been better if I had listened to it more recently, but, I mean... Really?
I listened to it earlier today, and I'm still,
I do have to say, as a general note, I do actually like the episode... Generally speaking, I like when Doctor Who takes something that seems mystical and makes it scientific, just because it does... Doctor Who does a very good job of the whole, technology so advanced that it may as well be magic to us thing, generally speaking, and I like it when the show does that. And this did that, and good for it. It just didn't do anything particularly amazing with it. It just, man.
It actually does remind me, too. First of all, yeah, that's it. I kind of see what you're going with, but at the same time, I feel like they didn't play it up enough. I think they could have done that in a way where you're like, oh, man, there's the whole cliche of, losing your soul over a game of cards kind of idea. And this being taken literally. But, well, playing cards of death or playing cards of the devil, that's playing a game over your soul is a trope.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And taking that trope literally, blending it with Satanism, and then making it turn out to be science, that sounds interesting. But the episode didn't really deliver that. It technically did. Those elements were there. It was just never like, oh, man, it's this thing. It was just kind of,
If they padded it out with a somewhat of a side story of the Doctor having to struggle with convincing people that what they're dealing with isn't paranormal, I think that might have worked better.
There could have been that.
Yeah.
They could have played up more of the game aspect of the people losing they could have. There's so many things they could have done to do something like that. And then also, I guess I have to give another slight compliment in the idea that I feel like they really wanted this to be historical in a way. They were not historical in the Doctor Who sense. This is not all historical episode, but in the sense that to take place in 1702, they have some historical events in there, and it feels like they really wanted to kind of really go for that setting, especially with some of the characters' accents and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're constantly talking, oh, the king died just recently and whatever. And that was I could at least say I kind of felt like a little bit immersed in the time period, but at the same time.
Well, usually in order to get us immersed in the time period, they give us a fairly specific, event that happened near then.
Yeah.
It was nice just being in the time period. But sadly, that led to, when I mentioned earlier, I'm not a giant fan of all the performances in this episode. I don't remember the character's name, but the character who was around the most often of the new, the guy who went to the club a lot and whatever.
Oh,
we had a voice. He was kind of like this. He had
Flowers.
A very it was the other guy. It was Flowers' friend, and he was his accent was difficult for me to listen to because it could not have sounded more oh, this is taking place in the 1700s. Oh man, I got a great old timey British accent. This is gonna sound great. And it's no, this doesn't. This sounds awful. You sound terrible. The actor did it 17 years ago, so hopefully they're not too sad about that comment.
Yeah, that's the weird thing for me listening through these is realizing that I'm not going to come across a Doctor I have any particular knowledge of for a long, long, long time in this radio series.
Yeah.
You should start watching the old series.
Yeah, well, I would like to. Yeah, give me enough time to play the games I need for my web series that I don't have time to make. I'll see about it.
Yeah. There was how they developed Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of just came out of nowhere and said, like, her main motivation is he killed her family and whatnot. And it was kind of like it felt like it was an afterthought of her.
It felt like Street Fighter with like the whole "you killed my father."
Yeah, my father was killed by a fork. Therefore, I hate forks.
Killed my father again.
Oh!
And, like, the characters they introduced were incredibly one-dimensional in a sense, in my opinion. Didn't relate much to Hannah or Billy, whatever, Lovemore, whatever. Valentine himself was cartoonishly evil.
Oh God, he was so cartoonishly.
So cartoonishly. To be fair, I kind of enjoyed him.
Yeah, he was hilariously campy, but at the same time, they build him up to be this huge villain. They don't tell you any of the stuff he did. Like, they tell you, oh, he's a terrible, terrible person, but that really doesn't describe just how terrible he is. They don't go into detail. And it's like introduced in the last quarter of the story that he's a bad guy.
You know, it does occur to me that might actually be a weakness I'm seeing so far with my wealth of experience just with these two first ones at least, because these are the only two I've heard, but that kind of happened in both of them. Like, stuff going on for the first three, and then the very last episode, it's all like, okay, well, now we're going to explain everything all at once.
Okay, I'm going to let you know that's not always a thing.
Oh, yeah, no, I figured it wouldn't always be a thing, but so far, like, both of them have definitely done that, and I think it's a weakness of the stories.
But my main point of contention with this guy as the antagonist, he was hilariously campy and evil, but like I said, they didn't properly give weight to just how bad he was. And yet he kept referring to this glorious reign of his that he was cut off from because he was trapped at this time. Like he said, like he was like this powerful being that made chaos and what have you. His main driving force for doing all the things that he's doing is to make sure that to get his ship running again, so he can go and reclaim this life of his, which we know nothing about except that he was a really, really bad guy in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That felt to me like extremely, like, this is a bad guy. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what.
Well, I mean, he had been capturing people's souls using cards, but I mean.
Yeah, but the reason why he was doing that was so he could go back to doing these other bad things that he allegedly done.
Yeah. Honestly, and that's another thing they bring it up is that entire idea, though, that like his ship had been crashed here, so he'd been forced to stay in this whole area for thousands of years, waiting to build up for his ship to heal stuff. That's an interesting idea. I like that idea. I wish they hadn't saved it for like the very end to bring that idea out there.
As this weird brain organism ship.
Yeah, it's like that's a cool idea. I'd love to see a story based around that. Too bad I didn't get that. Anything else?
I mean, it was kind of hinted at with like the cutaways to them being held prisoner and being forced to do processes which they didn't want to do as a way to get this mechanism going, but it didn't really like explain that, oh, it's part of the ship or whatever.
Oh yeah, that stuff, whenever it was kept those scenes, I was like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
Because it was just like, I don't know what's going on. Story, do you want to tell me what's happening to these characters? Because I have no idea.
Exactly, and it's like, I think that was one of the big weaknesses of it.
You just remind me, though, one of my biggest, what was that of this, is a classic staple of classic Doctor Who, because it has 30-minute episodes, is the end of the episode cliffhanger, where it's like, and then, they'd wait a week, and then the next episode they'd come back and see how the cliffhangers evolved. And they keep these in the audios, which I like, except the cliffhangers in this episode were terrible. It was always just it was like a Goosebumps chapter ending cliffhanger. It was like, all right, Doctor, then you'll have to face this. And the next episode, and it just goes on. And it's just like, oh, never mind, that was nothing.
Yeah.
It was always so underwhelming.
Like they cut off in the middle of the seance.
Yeah, in the middle of the seance, I'm like, I'm sorry, episode, but this isn't scary. I'm not left going, what's going to happen to the Doctor?
Well, it wasn't scary, but it was also right in the middle of the main thing they were doing in that story.
Yeah.
That was incredibly interesting. That was also a time in which the audio got to me, and I'm sure he was saying something during that time, but the weird sound, like weird ghost noises, were drowning everything out. But I assumed, like, I wasn't supposed to understand that because the sound was so prominent you couldn't understand it.
So, in summary, we seem to think that Phantasmagoria, while having a few good ideas here and there, was ultimately hindered by bad audio production, some mixed acting, and an overall lackluster story that left it just kind of bland and forgettable.
So skip it.
So skip it, or if you're Dylan, why not?
Yeah.